Are you a business owner looking for real advice and input? You're in the right place. From concept to launch to growth, funding, and beyond. Welcome to Startup Hustle with your hosts. One once sold a business for $150 million. The other, the author of $1 Million Bedroom. Here are your hosts of Startup Hustle, Matt DeCoursey and Matt Watson.
1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. 'Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it.
And we're back. Another episode of Startup Hustle. Matt DeCoursey here with Roy Scott, who'll be sitting in for Matt Watson today. Hey, Roy.
Hey, what's up with it, big homie?
Just another day of queue time.
Exactly, Q time specialist. Gotta get a happy hour. This is a new thing. I was on a quarantine happy hour, and they said we can make quarantinis. So,
Wow.
knock yourself out, man.
Well, for those of you that haven't had the honor of listening to an episode of Startup Hustle with Roy Scott, Roy is the CEO and founder of Healthy Hip Hop, and recently an inductee into the Techstars Atlanta cohort, which is what we'll catch an update on today. And I'm sure there's plenty to update there. So, Roy, what's been going on? Last time we had you in, we were shipping you off to Atlanta, and the world was still sane.
Yeah, no, things were a lot different then. Wow. So, but everything is still good. We're just making the most of the situation. But being in the social impact accelerator in Atlanta has really just been a game changer for us, opening up a ton of doors. For example, what kind of sucks, but it's still on the table, is that week of March 13th. On the 14th, we had a meeting with Tyler Perry Studios, which of course that was the week that everything got kind of started getting shut down, but that's still on the table. We just been getting so connected in the Atlanta ecosystem. I mean, from the Atlanta Hawks, Cox is one of the is actually the partner with the Social Impact Accelerator. So working with Cox, I mean, it's just been a whirlwind of opportunities, and people are really bought into what we're doing. And so now just solidifying our sales processes, kind of really tightening up all of our business stuff, truly getting investor ready financial models, just really getting in the weeds and kind of just trimming everything up, doing some landscaping and getting ready to full scale this thing up, baby.
So let's go back in the timeline now. So what was the date that Techstars started for you?
Started January 27th was the first day.
Okay. So, one of the things we wanted to do was try to kind of recreate some of the stuff you went through. So obviously you head off to Atlanta. Now you're in Kansas City right now, yeah, which is hometown, and heading off to Atlanta. So what kind of start did the accelerator get off to? I mean, like what were some of the things that you got involved with immediately?
Absolutely. And to talk about also this it goes into it, but it wasn't a part of it, but just how crazy 2020 has been. I want to say I think it was the day before the actual accelerator started was the Kobe Bryant issue. I mean,
wow. Yeah.
Going into it, it was like, we got to embrace the Mamba mentality for this accelerator. So, because everybody
that feels like 100 years ago already, man,
just how this 2020 has been a whirlwind. But as soon as we got in, like the first week was just kind of getting familiar with the managing director, everybody that's there to assist. So Barry Givens, Paige, getting familiar with the team they had there to help us out with the programming. And then bam, going right into week 2, it was Mentor Madness. And so Mentor Madness, I mean, it's just what it was. It was madness. It was literally, we met with 90 potential mentors in 8 or 9 days. So like 10 meetings a day, just back to back, 25-minute sessions, meeting with possible mentors and seeing who was a good fit. And it was good, but it was taxing, after that first full day of like going in nonstop meetings. I mean, at the end of the day, I didn't even realize I just fell asleep. I just passed out, but it was really good because we met some real key people. We got some really dope mentors. And so that's kind of was the first wave of it. And then right after that, it was like right into, it's time to get shit done. And so with it being Techstars is in it for the long haul, but their goal is you got to maximize this 3 months to just crank out as much shit as possible as far as like, so we started setting up our KPIs, our key performance indicators, kind of what was our North Star metric. So what is the main thing we want to hit? And to start, we were thinking about, which is crazy because it kind of pivoted back to it, was our North Star metric was doing the soft launch and getting 25,000 unique users on our platform, because we were in a public beta, but we were ready to kind of start onboarding more users, because we've been hovering around like, 1,500 or so active users. And that was just it was a public beta, but we hadn't really been promoting it. So anyway, that was our original North Star metric. And then as we kind of dug deep into it, we pivoted those into being securing strategic corporate partners in Atlanta, getting paid professional development, because in the education space, as we know, EdTech doesn't sound sexy. In big picture, we're bigger than EdTech, but this is kind of our entry to the market. So EdTech doesn't sound sexy, but because it's hard, sales cycles, they're extremely slow, et cetera. Everybody knows the story. But we found kind of like a glitch in the matrix where all education systems, they have budgets for professional development. And so I was booking up professional development. So our goal was to get paid PDs, not only in Atlanta, but just in all the surrounding areas, and also still get more users on the platform. And so getting our KPI straight, meeting with our mentors weekly, knocking stuff down, setting up meetings. We were at Ron Clark Academy. We're connected with the Arthur Blank Foundation, Chick-fil-A Foundation, you name it. And so we were just ramping things up. And on top of that, my co-founder, Wes, being from Tampa and me being from Kansas City, we had some good synergy there, but it was different with us actually being in the same room at the same time, really cranking shit out and making it happen. And what was really interesting about it is that me and Wes were like yin and yang. So I'm kind of more high concept thinker, go, go, go. And he's more kind of like operational, analytical thinking. And so it really was a perfect match. So all the operational stuff, which me and you had been discussing, we really ironed out a lot of that within that month and a half. And we're just making a few more tweaks as far as like our sales processes, kind of what our offerings, et cetera. So that's the good part, is just like getting into it, mentor madness, KPIs, setting up meetings, knocking down these to-do lists, and then bam, here comes COVID-19, which we had no idea what the extent of it at the time was going to be. And so now everything has moved virtual. But we've still been continuing to gain progress. But I think everybody for these last 2 weeks or so just kind of been a hit, just kind of getting adjusted and making some key pivots so we can continue to keep going.
So you're continuing all the accelerators, course matter, all of everything that they're doing. You're just doing it all online.
Yep, everything's digital. So I'm the Zoom legend, man. I'm on Zoom. Oh my God, the Zoomer.
Maybe you could get the Snap Cam and you could get it to do the healthy hip hop characters.
Hey, it's crazy you said that. I'm actually working on that. We got to catch up offline. It's a lot of good stuff coming. So we got an animator team actually now that's is setting up these rigs for us, and it goes through Cartoon Boom or something in Adobe to where we can just kind of I know they can't see it on the podcast, but how we're talking now, we can just set the rig to our face. So PJ Panda could be rapping and we got a whole slew of new characters that we kind of retouched up. So yeah, that's the big picture goal.
So from that first month or however many weeks where you were actually in Atlanta and doing this stuff face to face, what was the biggest takeaway that you got from all that?
The biggest takeaway was that, I think is that we were close, but we just weren't quite as investor ready, and just being transparent is that stuff you've been telling me, stuff we've been talking about from the very beginning. And
before we get too far into that, I guess we should probably just brush up on so Full Scale has been a big investor in healthy hip hop, quite a bit actually. And with that, you and I have not, I haven't had nearly as much involvement as you have. I just kind of check in occasionally and answer some questions. And our team at Full Scale has built the tech. over the last however many months. But yeah, so with that, as I try to do the best job I can of giving advice without showing up once a month and telling, you're not doing this right, because that sucks. No one wants to hear that shit. So, all right, go ahead.
Yeah. And so, but that's been a game changer for us because I was going to be a tech company without having actual tech. And
True.
so that was a big challenge in full scale. And, Matt stepped up to the plate, and it's been a game changer for us because now we come down, because I think our app had actually in January just went live as we were getting to Techstars. So we're kind of like the progression and the timing, because, a lot of times, in this journey, we're putting this pressure on ourselves, and but what I'm learning is to be, actually, that's my biggest takeaway. What I'm learning is to be more in the moment, and I'm still in this pressurized, situation, but I'm still like, let me just be patient, be intentional, let me execute. But it's just the steps to getting it, like how we first met at the pitch deal, powder keg, a couple years ago, to always had the vision, but now getting the tech rolling, now raising some more additional funds, now getting connected to Techstars. So just the progress and the process of it all, that's what I'm learning, is just to embrace it and make the most of every moment. Because so like when we went virtual and we had to leave, I had like a moment like, damn, I didn't realize just how like great this. I was really immersed in it, but like, man, this is really great. We were in the Ponce City market, right? It kind of between Midtown and downtown Atlanta. And we're just like, wow, now I got to leave. This sucks. But we're still making the best of it though.
So you had mentioned something about realizing that you might not be fully investor ready. I think that's an important topic to talk about, because I think a lot of people think they are and then realize very quickly that they're not. Let's talk about that for a second. So what were some of the things that we can, like I said, we can be open and transparent. I mean, some of the things that we've talked about over the last several months, because anytime you're in this early stage startup scenario, you're wrapping your arms around a whole lot of different stuff. And, oftentimes, like is the case with yours, there's not a whole lot of people that are involved. Like you've got a team of developers at full scale that has been anywhere between 3 and 6 people, depending on, what we were trying to sprint through. And then you've got a co-founder in Florida and some advisors and investors that are scattered around the Midwest and now in Atlanta as well. So, some of what are some of the things that you uncovered at Techstars, or what did they bring up for you?
Yeah, and it wasn't necessarily about uncovering them, but it was more about the things that you had initially been talking to about, is like your financial model, like making sure you have that down pat, making sure you can clearly articulate what this money is being used for, and that's on paper versus just saying, tech development and sales and marketing, really getting that stuff in line, really making sure all of our prior financials, even though we haven't generated a whole lot of revenue, but making sure that all those documents are ready and in place, making sure the data room is stacked up. Understanding where we were at as far as like before we thought we were seed, before we were really pre-seed. I mean, we're just now really kind of hitting seed, this our seed round, really. Those are some top things, because when you hear a lot of people talk about VC, and I realize this, like we're not even close to being VC ready. We're still seed, maybe like some early stage VCs. But again, being in the Midwest and even in Atlanta, like Atlanta is like on the come up, kind of like KC, but obviously Atlanta is a much bigger market. It's more robust. I think I want to say a little more progressive, just because it's a bigger city, and for what we do specifically with hip hop, I mean, it's the epicenter of hip hop. But even with their like early stage funding, they're just kind of now on the come up with that, because that was one of the challenges that we discussed, and that I was talking to another founder in KC, and he was like, man, it's hilarious, because it's like KC is an early stage city with no early stage funding available. You know, it was like, so I had to make the most of like going for grants, you know, for Launch KC when that was a grant, going for Arch grants, going for the Rainier Institute. I mean, all these little things I could go for to get grant opportunities I was going for. But to kind of sum up and back to the question is that our financial modeling needed to be really tightened up, having all of our prior financials prepared, even if they're not big numbers, they still need to be prepared. They need to see that you've been on top of this and you're doing your due diligence, and even our projections, our forecasting, all that type of stuff that it's kind of sucks to do, but but is necessary to be completely investor ready.
You know, so some of the things that you and I have talked about over the last 18 months, and you mentioned some of that kind of echoing some of my own sentiment. And, you know, what he's talking about is, you know, if you're going to go out, so Roy is essentially the Eagle Scout of winning grant money. I don't know if there's any more you can apply for.
I'm looking. I'm still looking.
Yeah, but you know, part of what you'll hear coming out of my mouth over the last, I don't know, year is, okay, Roy, we got to get out of the grant mentality.
Yeah,
we're going to try to raise some real money here, but in order to do that, you know, I talked about spent a lot of time talking about the financial model, and that extends a lot past just like having an accountant and keeping track of your own books. 18 months ago, I sat down and did projections, and I've talked about this story a lot because as I did some of the financial modeling a year and a half ago, and you had actually asked me to help with that. This was before I became an investor, and I sat down to do it, and I started looking at what the business could become and how quickly it could become this financially. And I looked at the bottom line and I said, man, I must have put an extra zero in somewhere. And I went back for like a couple hours. I'll never forget this. I went back and I couldn't find the zero, which is a good thing, right? But I mean, my point is if you're building a table and you put an extra zero on $100,000, you turned it into $1 million. So that's a $900,000 difference. But I started looking at so much stuff, and when I look back at the timeline, you know, a couple of years ago, you were doing what a lot of early stage companies do, and that's when you're ambitious and you have a big vision and you have 5 or 6 things that you're trying to be great at all at once. And I think you'll probably always remember that discussion I had with you. I'm like, dude, I think I figured out what's going on here. And I think we got to get good at one thing, and then the money's not that far away. Now the thing is over that period of time, all those projections I created 18 months ago, let's fucking throw them out the window, man.
Yeah,
because we get to do them all over again. And then honestly, had we done them again, we'd have to do them again now. Yeah. Because pretty much anything and everything that you've been reliant on in the past as a startup or a business owner, just toss it out. Just toss it out, because you got a new world. You got a new world. You got a new outlook. You're going to have new budgets. You have money coming from different directions. Like, we're recording this on Friday, April 3rd, which is the first day that businesses can apply for the PPP loan and all this different stuff. And, you know, there's it's a whole different reality. So any and everything that you have gotten used to or relied on from a projection standpoint or a historical standpoint is now void. Yeah. And, you know, that's one of the things that it's going to be hard for a lot of people to figure out, because your cost of acquisition is no longer the same. Lifetime value of a customer is not going to be the same. Your ability to retain staff, your sales cycle probably got longer. Like right now is probably, actually 2 weeks ago or last week, maybe, I'm hoping this doesn't get worse, was probably the worst week ever to try to sell something.
Yeah. You might forget about it. Ain't no selling was. It was.
Yeah. Yeah, and we had a new sales guy that started at the beginning of last week.
I'd love to
On
hear
the
that
20
story.
on the 23rd of March, and a new sales director at Full Scale, and we had been waiting for this guy to start for about a month, and he starts, and I was like, you probably couldn't be starting on the worst day. So, but with that, we've used that time to restructure a lot of things, to refine our sales process, to take some time to do things like customized Salesforce and just different things. And, as I was in the midst of having investor conversations of my own, and they're asking me questions, I'm in the Philippines trying to figure out if I'm even going to make it home.
Man,
and
I've seen that on social media. I was like, man, I hope my man can get back to the States. Oh my!
Well, I was there with your team, man.
Yeah, I know.
I had to make sure that the building didn't fall over, but
wow.
That was a wild experience. And, then, and honestly, it because I, much like yourself, I left for the Philippines and I realized COVID was going on. And my main concern was I was traveling through it a little bit, and it had just hit South Korea. And it was really only China and South Korea that were having an issue, but I was scheduled to travel through Seoul, and I did.
Wow.
Hey, I'm fine, man.
Hey, man, he's a legend in my book, man.
Oh God! And then I got there, and after about a week, it got weird because everywhere I was going, they were shooting lasers at your forehead to check your temperature. I mean, everywhere I went. By the time I left, that was just normal. Like, I mean, I went and sat. There's a 7-Eleven. Like 100 yards, or as they go by meters there, about 100 meters, not even that, it's probably 50 yards from our office. And even going in there, they would only let 3 people in at a time, and they zap your forehead with the laser. They do that in and out of the office, and the way to the parking garage, and the way to the hotel, pretty much anywhere.
Wow.
You go. There was a level of preparedness there. Everyone was wearing masks. And here we are on April 3rd. And
that didn't even happen. That's unheard of. That's my first time hearing about that.
Yeah. But, I mean, should we be shocked that there's not a massive outbreak there? It's just, but anyway, trying to wrap your arms around that. But so for myself, it really put me ahead in my preparation timeline. But as I started looking at this, I mean, like I mentioned, having some of our own investors and discussion stuff, and they're like, yeah, well, what are your sales forecasts and financial projections? And I literally replied to a guy. I said, given the present climate, I'd love to take a shot at it, but I have no clue. I have absolutely no clue. Like, that was a hell of a question. And also theoretically, the worst answer you could give a potential investor about your financial future. Like, what's your plan? Fucking beats me, guy. Like,
figured it out every day.
Yeah, but there's truth to that. And like, I didn't phrase it like that, but I said, look, we're gonna have to shift our sales model a little bit. And so, like, for the last couple of weeks, all I've been doing is putting Band-Aids on stuff, wrapping the little twist ties around other stuff, bracing things with popsicle sticks. Like, that's an accurate. And because, we had a lot of clients that have had a need to scale down, and we've had some that have more needs. Yeah. So trying to figure that out, and then also trying to figure out, where we point our sales at businesses that have a bigger need for stuff. And, there are winners and losers. Now, in your case, EdTech, okay, it wasn't sexy at all.
Yeah. It's hot right now, though, right?
I'll tell you what, it started looking good real fast. Why? Yeah. Because kids aren't in school, man. Like, everybody's kids aren't in school. All of a sudden, all these, and why wasn't, you asked a question, why isn't EdTech sexy? Well, because it's one of those things, you're dealing with schools, the budgets are fairly limited. You mentioned the sales cycle can be painfully long. They're notoriously jaded with their spending, meaning like one school district sees what the other one gets and what the other one gets and what the other one gets. And it can be really hard to break into that. But now all of a sudden look at and you talk about, the micro pivot. I own a company that specializes in remote development teams. Okay. That's a good thing.
Yeah, that's a great.
But we still have to have people that want remote developers. Now, over the last year, and one of the things is a year ago, as our company grew quickly, I said, man, we have to build a management platform that handles all this. And it's at times it's been a real headache. But now all of a sudden it looks like a real genius move, because we have what can pretty quickly become a commercialized, development company management platform. So, you have to kind of look at what you've got and the timing of when you have it and start to focus on that. And that's one of the things with Healthy Hip Hop that's kind of cool, because be able to pop the cork out on this soon. And, look, Mike, I let my kids stay up last night way, way too late. You want to know why? They're still asleep right now, man.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't want to, I'm tired of 7 a.m. and I open my eyes and there's a 3-year-old standing there staring at me. Yeah. And I'm like, whoa, this is too early, dude. So yeah, I think that, and another thing too, like back to your comments is wrapping your arms around what stage you're at.
Yeah.
And that's the point. In the stage that you're at, the level of preparedness and forward and future thinking and planning that you have, it has a different level of expectation. So you mentioned saying, oh, well, maybe we're not Series A ready. No, because there's no revenue there.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty big component with Series A, and then often referred to as Series Seed. I mean, we were your angels. Yeah. And then you have the grants, and then also pursuing a grant and pursuing institutional money are two completely different things. I'm sure you figured that out by now.
100%. And what you said too, to that is now that we're actually in a place now, because we were generating some revenue, actually more revenue a couple years back when we were really heavy on going into schools, going into community, doing corporate events, etc. But we kind of obviously scaled that back a taste so we could start developing the tech and now this. But now that was another interesting thing that kind of slowed down a little bit, but we're still making the most of it, is now we're ready to start selling our tech product. And we have that model down. So kind of shifts to where, okay, we still want to raise some funding, but now with our financial model, we know exactly how much we need to become profitable. And now we have a product to start. Now it's time to start going hitting the streets and selling.
Yeah. And that was another thing, you heard come out of my mouth a lot, is like, if we want to get the investment money that we're ready for, we have to be able to demonstrate exactly, where that's going. You mentioned you can't just say sales and development and product development.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be a little more specific about that. And, some of the things related to, we've talked about creating a sponsorship model.
Yep.
You have the online platform, which is basically, is it still a free content for schools, or did we change that?
Yeah. So we're changing that. But so right now with this pivot we're making now is basically we're essentially getting ready to kick off a campaign that's saying, hey, listen, you're getting a Healthy Hip Hop suite of services free for 90 days, and so there always will be like a free version, or kind of a lighter version, like a free model, but for the more exclusive content, additional features, etc., that's going to cost up. But that's the campaign we're kicking off now, because now, hey, listen, all these teachers and parents are at home with your kids, and it's good because we interviewed some of our customers who were already using the platform and who have paid us to come to do professional development, live events. And what they were saying was, give us about 2 to 3 weeks for this transition, because now like all the parents are going homeschool. In fact, my kids are running around here now. I'm homeschooling kids. I'm also a teacher and a principal and a superintendent all in one. And so like having that transition, like let that calm down a little bit. And so we kind of took that information from them. And now we're getting prepared that people have kind of got a little more used to the new normal. It's mid-April, really kicking off this strong campaign, getting some brand ambassadors, contacting like more of the micro influencers, so the mommy blogs, etc., and really just kind of turning this up and say, hey, listen, here's an opportunity for you all to get familiar with Healthy Hip Hop, a safe place for your kids to create and consume content. Let's go. Let's create your TikTok style videos through ours. And we still have some of our content available on the TikTok platform, because we know that's where a lot of them are already at. So they can still use it there, but ultimately using the TikToks and the YouTubes of the world to push, come to our native platform to get a more robust offering And so now it's like, even with hitting that switch on that, it's been meeting with social media marketers, meeting with PR specialists, because we got to make the most of this opportunity right now, this window that's open for us. So it's kind of a unique opportunity. And now it's like, man, we got to just fire it up and go and start getting some traction on that end.
Yeah. And see, that represents a level of agility that's important because, 3 months ago, we had talked about, and this is when kids were still in school. And that makes it difficult to get a subscription across every kid in a class.
Yeah.
And then also selling things like the Healthy Hip Hop product is tailor-made in a lot of cases for a demographic of students that attend schools that might not be budget heavy.
Yeah.
And so that's where at the time we said, this needs to lean more on a sponsor model, but try to get a sponsor right now.
Well, the unique thing is this.
Forget about it. I mean, you got companies furloughing, laying people off in the millions, and you're like, hey, but give us some money for schools that aren't even in session. So it's like I said, sometimes you just got to throw the baby out with the bathwater and start over again.
You got to be nimble. That's this really actually in this time, this kind of just speaks to and represents entrepreneurship. You got to be able to adjust. You got to be able to make do and make the most with the circumstances given. So, but one of the unique things though, also of being part of the first inaugural social impact accelerator, what is interesting is that we're actually getting connected in with a lot of these CSR. So I'm learning some of these new acronyms. So corporate social responsibility dollars that they got out here. So
that's CSR, a new one for me.
Yeah, CSR, corporate social responsibility. So all these corporations, they're kind of also making a pivot too, because typically it was more of them putting money in nonprofits, but now with the corporate social responsibility thing they're doing, they're also working with for-profit entities and for-profit corporations. So being in the first inaugural social impact accelerator in Atlanta has really given us access to a lot of those CSR dollars. And we still actually got some irons in the fire that we're working out in preparation for the following school year, and kind of what the offering is as far as, because it's really 3-tier, but we're focusing on 2 of those tiers. So it's the professional development. And so again, we know all these schools are doing that. Even corporations are doing these PDs. They do the professional development. So that gets all the administrators and teachers familiar with healthy hip hop and how to bring culture to the classroom through our product and through our tech offerings. And then some of those schools will also get a live event. So we're trying not to do as many of those. So we're just charging more and kind of doing less. That's the tier. That's part of the 3 tiers, but that's kind of one of the tiers we're not as focused on. And the 3rd tier is the technology for the sustainability. So now all the schools will get access, to the online platform, the live streaming. We're working with local influencers, for example, in Atlanta, working with the Hawks to get like the Trey Youngs of the world to do a live stream to a school. So they would get that 3rd part for the sustainability. So the PD, the live events, and the technology to sustain it, focusing more on the PD and the technology, because even the PD can be done virtually. And what we're learning is, like I said, they got big budgets for that. And they get extra, I can't think of the word for it now, but they get more they get credits towards doing this continual learning,
continuing education. Yeah.
Exactly. So now we package up this continuing education to where essentially schools can be paying a subscription to have continued education of healthy hip hop on how to be more culturally responsive, to how to be more culturally competent. So a lot of these things we kind of been ironing out, so for where we can really get to that section of their budget, but then also really creating this organic kind of grassroots movement, but ultimately with the goal, I know before we said we're the Sesame Street of the 21st century, but now the ultimate goal is to become an urban Disney. And so that's like the big picture, but now we're right here just kind of on a ground level, putting the work in to ultimately become this behemoth, is that the right word? This gigantic, educational is like a supplement of it, but like this media tech company that houses like all urban family friendly content. Cause there's some stuff out there. There's some other people like creating some stuff like this, not necessarily healthy hip hop, but creating like more relevant, clean content, but there's not a house for it. So healthy hip hop will eventually be that house that we can.
You talk about that, the network effect.
Exactly.
I mean, we've even talked about that some on Startup Hustle because, you know, we know so many people that are doing interesting and innovative things, and they want to have a platform for sharing their content, which is, you know, you can do. Like anybody can publish a podcast, anyone can create a YouTube channel, but there's so many of them out there. When they're fragmented, it's like it's saturated. Like that. It's like that frayed end of like a fiber optic cable. If you open it up and it's got like 1,000 wires, you're like, whoa, you know, there's a lot to this. But you know, the thing is when you squeeze it together at the end and wrap it up, it's a nice tight bound cable, and you can deliver that content in a very precise and effective way. So. Yeah. Well, once again, with us today, we had CEO and founder of Healthy Hip Hop, Roy Scott. If you want to check out more about what Healthy Hip Hop does, just go to healthy.hiphop. There's an app in iOS. I think we got Android out too, right?
It's an Android that doesn't have all the functionality, but you can at least, you know, listen to the music, watch the videos. And so, Healthy Hip Hop.
Well, living in beta.
Hey,
that's and you know, the app's really cool. You know, you can use it for a lot of different stuff. You can film, you can make a video of yourself. You can rap along with PJ Panda or.
And so
I haven't checked. Maybe Rap and Roy in there. Do I have an emoji yet?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think we already got one, but we're working on a new set. I've been meaning to send you this. We got some new art. Like, yeah, you're gonna love it, man. Like the new.
I want to approve my character before he's live. I'm a little worried about what you guys are going to make me do.
No, man, we're gonna make you dope, man. I'm thinking we're gonna make you a part of like the OGs. So the OGs. So it's the jungle, right? So you got to hear the whole new story, man.
God.
We have to do another podcast just for the story.
I'm an OG in the jungle.
Yeah.
That's how you've started. And that's exactly why I'm worried, bro. That's exactly what I'm worried about.
And you're going to love it. So the story in a nutshell, I know we got to wrap this up.
44-year-old white OG in the jungle.
Come on, dog. It's real.
Okay.
Come on, man. we got full creative control here. So,
just give me a thick, full head of hair, and I'll be happy.
So the OGs are the original gorillas. So you're gonna have a full head of hair.
I like that.
You have a whole body full of hair.
There you go. Speaking of hair, I see that you're keeping it nice and tight. I'm still fighting the debate. I'm like, do I want to maybe just let it grow for like 2 months and just go completely like Tom Hanks Castaway style, or do I want to shave it? Yeah, the beard's looking strong. You're looking like James Harden. For real.
Hey, I need some of that James Harden money, man. Come on.
Yeah, no doubt. I hear you on that too. So do I. I get back and forth. I tell myself I'll let the beard go out, and then after about a week, it gets kind of itchy, and I'm
you looking good, man. I see you over there.
Yeah, not really.
Man. Come on.
You know, it's funny. My wife was giving me a hard time because I went to like. It was probably like 5 years ago. I went to the doctor, and the doctor was like, "Your hair looks like it's thinning," and wrote me a prescription for like hair pills. and I cashed it in, and I know, but I never took them. So I started taking them at the beginning of quarantine, and I didn't even tell my wife. And yesterday she was like, "Your hair's looking a lot thicker." I was like, "Dang, I guess those are working."
Hey, your stuff is looking full though, bro.
She asked me, she was like, did you start taking are you taking those 5-year-old hair pills you got? I said, fuck yeah, I am. Why not? She's like, because they probably expired 4 years ago. I said, no,
they just activated now. They just now activated.
I guess. I was like, why not? As I had to set up my home office, I had to also meant I had to clean out my home office. But yeah, I did a lot of stuff. So there you go. There's a little
I ain't gonna lie to you.
reality.
It's looking full and healthy, brother.
It's because we have a really so for those of you that aren't listening, we use an application called Squadcast to do these virtual things, and I can see Roy right now. It makes it a little easier on the conversation. But yeah, I'm just poorly lit, and I'm on a laptop camera. So yeah, trust me, it's as hating it as usual. Well, Roy, once again, thanks for taking time to give us another update on the accelerator. I'm gonna try to continue to do these every 4 to 6 weeks so we can see the progress. And I'm pretty excited to see you get into Techstars. I mean, some of that is because I had a feeling they would echo some of my sentiment but also push the structure and do some of the things that, I haven't had the time or focus to be able to help with. And, that's the beautiful part of things like Techstars and different accelerators is they are just putting you in that stride. It's easy to sit down with an advisor and have them say, well, you got to do this, or this. But if that advisor isn't sitting down and either doing it for you or doing it with you or helping you walk you through that process, it's just advice. That's just, those are just words. So
but you got in the trenches with me first. I mean, as far as helping the business plan and all that. So, but you're right. Everything you're saying is true. And that's one thing I appreciate about you is that you hold no punches and no BS. And, when it's real, it's real. And I'm here to listen, learn, and make adjustments. So, it's there.
Funny. It's funny you say that because the Matt DeCoursey helpline has been ringing off the hook basically this last 10 days. I've developed that I'm that person that I'll just get a text and be like, hey man, when you get a chance, I'd like to talk to you. I'll say, why, what's up? And it's almost always like, I just need someone that'll tell me the truth.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, oh my God, I'm that guy.
Hey, that's a good,
I'd rather be that guy. I'd rather be that guy than the opposite. But the thing is but I've always kind of been that way. I'm just kind of wrapping my arms around who I am with that. But I think that's an important part. And this is where we can kind of wrap up today is like, look, you can get advice from a lot of different people about a lot of different stuff that wants you to do a lot of different things. And but the thing is the people that you're involved with, like, Full Scale, we have a $375,000 commitment to Healthy Hip Hop. Think about that, people. 375 large. That's a lot. Yeah, it's more than $350,000. But with that, I obviously have a vested interest. So does Full Scale. So does Matt Watson in the success of the enterprise. So, some of that advice that I or we give is, different than 19 other people that might say different things. Now in the accelerator, that's a very, very well, okay, Techstars is the shit.
Yeah.
Okay. And by the way, Lisa Mitchell's going to come on next week and talk with us a little bit about it. Yeah. She said hello, by the way, and congratulations.
She does not bullshit either. She's a straight shooter. And I've always appreciated about her too.
That's the key. Yeah, that's the key. But, then one of the things though, and kind of where I'm going with this is early stage in your business, you get a lot of people telling you a lot of things, especially about what the value of your business is. If those people aren't writing a check, I don't give a shit what they have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you've heard me say that exactly. People are like, yeah, well, so-and-so says I've got a $4 million value. Cool. Are they writing you a check? And if they're not, then, exactly. Put the money where the mouth is. Well, once again, Roy, thanks for joining in. I'll catch up with you soon. See you next time.
Appreciate you, Matt.